Here we are in the middle of January, if we can believe it. So I was saying to somebody the other day, it's only a short 6 weeks before the spring is here, and we can all be outside and enjoy some sunshine again. So not that you can't do that on a nice brisk day like today. Um, So I sorry, I just want to say thank you everybody for joining us. I know it was a short window of time for you to fit it into your calendars, but we really appreciate it. And a special thanks to MPP Lindsey Park for putting this in her calendar at such short notice for us. So as you're all aware, the province released a new program for business support last week. And so we wanted to bring Lindsey in and have her help us go through it in a brief manner. And then we'll do a bit of a Q&A after Lindsey does a presentation. So if you have questions, if you can put them in the chat, that would be appreciated. And that way we can monitor them and hopefully we get to them all. If we don't get to them all, then we will make sure that we get something back to you in writing. So without any further ado, because nobody came to see me today, I am going to hand it off to Lindsey. And again, thank you, Lindsey. We'll hand it over to you now.
Very good. Thanks, Sheila. And hopefully this morning is a very practical session. And so whether you're a small business owner yourself or you have friends or family or members of your organization that are small businesses, you can help walk them through how to apply. When Sheila approached me to do this brief seminar, she said, I want us to have the most small businesses apply as quickly as possible from Clarington. So we want to, this is one of those government programs we want to compete with other areas of the province and make sure we're getting as much support into Clarington as possible, because that can only be good in the long run for our local economy and our local small businesses. And so with that, I thought when Sheila asked me, I wonder if it's possible for me to get the same presentation I got in caucus by the government bureaucrats that actually developed the website and walked us through it. And turns out I was able to get a recording of that presentation. So you're going to have the very same person that walked me through the technical nature of the website and how to apply walk us through this morning. And so with that, bear with me. I think I know how to use this technology, but I'm going to try and share my screen and let's see if we're successful. Okay. So as you can see, this is actually a recording. So I'm going to play and it's going to be the person that briefed us that works actually for the Ministry of Government and Consumer Services. That's who's running the back end of the website here. So I'm going to press play and just maybe I'll use you to tell me, do thumbs up if the volume needs to be higher, okay, or down, and you can probably increase it on your end as well. But I'm going to press play now.
All the information, I can continue with the same application. Or I can apply for funding. I can start with a new application. So
maybe to give some context, he's going through ontario.ca/COVID support. And I'll repeat it again, because that's the website you're going to want to write down and you're going to want to share with everyone. Ontario.ca/COVID support. And you'll see when you pull that up, right away, all the provincial programs for small businesses are on that same website, and you'll click on apply for funding. And when you click on apply for funding, this is the page you're going to get. And so he's going to walk you through now the details of how to apply.
Given that I'm a new applicant, I'm going to click on apply for funding. And it brings me to this page where I need to check the eligibility, if I can apply for these programs or not. By default, the new program is selected. I can select the programs if I'm interested, or I can just apply for that program. Click on check eligibility, which will again take me to a series of questions to check my eligibility for the program. The first question for the Small Business Support Grant Program is, was my business required to close temporarily or significantly restrict services as a result of being subject to province-wide shutdown? I will say yes. Does your business have less than 100 employees? That's the definition for a small business. You can say yes. And is my business expecting at least a 20% revenue decline? I have a handy reference to the business guide that I can access if I want to know more information about what revenue decline means. I'll say yes, and then I click on next. Now it says that I'm eligible for the following funding program, the Ontario Small Business Grant. I'm going to start my application. Now, when I start my application, it takes me to a series of steps. It's going to ask me to provide my business information, my contact information, information related to the new Ontario Small Business Support Grant, then review all the information I provided in the 3 steps, provide my banking information, and submit. So I come here, I provide my legal name. So I'm running a small business, Olivia's Tea Room. So I provide the information. I run it as Store of Happiness. And I provide my CRA business number. Now, at this stage, I can validate the business number if I'm not sure if my business number is correct or not. If it's correct, I don't need to validate it there. I don't know where to get the business number. We provide a handy tip. It can be found on the GST, HST return, or the employer payroll, or T2 corporate tax filing. Now, if I'm a self-proprietor who doesn't have a business number, we also provide a handy link on how to obtain the business number from the CRA website. The next step is to provide the address information. I can use address will confirm postal code, or if I know the address, I can directly key it in. Okay, so I have that. My billing address is same as head office address. If it is different, I can provide that as well.
If your overall sales are more.
Here I'm going to provide my contact information. Nish, last name is Agarwal, phone number, and my email address. Okay, so I've provided information, I've confirmed my email address is that. It's very important to provide the correct email address, validate it again, because that's the address that is being used in terms of sending emails, confirming the receipt of your application, confirming the payment process, and if you have to come back and resume your application. I'm going to confirm that I'm the owner and I have the signing authority for the individual transfer the business. At this point, I can save a draft, which allows me to come back. If I don't have all the information, I can come back and resume the application. All this information will be saved. I don't have to provide that information again. Click on next. Now here I'm going to provide information very specific to the Ontario Small Business Support Grant. Right up front, we provide the application guide, which the users can review, the applicants can review in case they have more questions or they want to find more about the program. I need to provide my business type, and it's restaurants and bars. Now it asks me if my question is part of an enterprise or an affiliated enterprise. We have a handy tip in terms of what it means, enterprise, or they can refer to the application guide for more information. So my business is not part of an enterprise, so I'm not going to check that. Now here, if I was having a winter seasonal business, like a ski resort or any business that is associated with winter seasonal, I can say yes, and it will ask me a series of questions. if my business was in operation in the current business structure in December 2019, if I say yes, it's going to ask me for my highest monthly revenue, either in December 2019 or January 2020, given that many winter seasonal businesses don't start operating until January. For the purposes of this demo, I'll say no, my business is not a winter seasonal business. Then the next question is, was my business in operation in the current business structure in April 2019? If I say yes, it will ask me to provide number of employees, my revenue in April 2019, my revenue in April 2020. If I say no, it prompts me to provide my business first full month of operation, the month, and based on that, it's going to ask me for the same information in terms of number of employees, what was my revenue, and in February 2020, what was my revenue in April 2020. For the purpose of the demo, again, I'll say yes, it was in business structure in operation in April 2019. The number of employees were 10. The revenue was 10,000 in April 2019. In April 2020, the revenue is 2,000. Then I attest that the information I'm providing is all good. I go through the terms and conditions, say agree. I've provided now information with respect to this program. I'll say next. Now here I can review all the information I have provided, the business information, the contact information, the information related to Ontario Small Business Support Grant. So all the information has been provided. It all looks good. I can go to the next step, which is to provide my banking information. There's a sample check, copy of sample check provided, just in case if you want to see where their branch, what their branch number, institution number, and account number is located on the check. Put that in here. And I'll select the institution number. Now there are many banks. We're just not limiting to the top 5. We cover a broad spectrum of banks within the province. And provide the account number. That's it. Then verify that all the information I've provided is correct. And click on submit. So when I click on submit, again, some terms and conditions. I'll be attesting as Manish Agrawal that all the information I'm providing is true. Agree and submit. So once I do that, my application is submitted, and so it's just a test environment. So it's saying that there's a problem because I've already used the CRA business number. So we have a check as well to ensure that the CRA business number is not used again. There's only one application that can be submitted with that application. But once I click on submit, my application will be submitted, and I'll get a notification saying that your submission, your application has been submitted. Let me quickly share the email with you on how it looks. So the business will receive an email similar to this, where it says that you've applied for this program. This is your authorization number, and it's under review. And if it's approved, you'll receive a subsequent confirmation email notifying that your payment has been processed. And that it takes around 2 weeks to receive your payment once the application has been approved. So that completes the demo of the program.
Wonderful. So I'm just checking time. I don't recommend.
All right, so maybe we'll pause there. That was a lot of information in a short period of time. But the good thing is, I believe, Sheila, you're recording this session this morning. So perhaps there might be a way for people to go back and watch that again. One thing I will highlight, not only is the new grant part of that application process, but if you also want to apply for the PPE grants, which is for businesses, small businesses with 2 to 9 employees, and it's up to $1,000. You just have to show your receipts for the PPE. And that can mean, you know, I see John on the call with a mask on. It could be mask. It could be what you're physically wearing. It could be the barriers you've put up, the new barriers you've put up in your store. It could be hand sanitizer. There's a whole list, and it goes through a similar form. You would fill it out all at the same time. You would just right at the start of applying, click that you're interested in seeing if you qualify for that grant as well. And then the other one that's also included and you can tick off is property tax relief, as well as covering your energy bills. And so because Durham kind of has been in a restricted, not a full lockdown, but we've been restricted in Durham. Our businesses have been restricted since we entered the red in the province's framework. Basically, since that date we entered red until now, and as long as we're in this, businesses will be eligible for coverage of their energy bills. And so that could be hydro, it could be natural gas. There's a whole list of things it can be. And so probably by now they're at sort of like 2 different bills have come through. So they would just want copies of those bills to, again, upload as they're applying. So those are just some things to have handy and ready, is receipts from your PPE and receipts from and copies of your energy bills. And so with that, maybe we'll turn it over to some questions. Let's see here. Yeah, John, maybe I'll read the question out. Everyone might see it in the chat, but maybe not. So John Thistle, John's asking, because I'm not retail, I don't qualify for the PPE grant, and yet I've made a significant investment in PPE. Is there a way around this? I can check into this, John, but I would say it's worth, if you haven't actually gone through the application and tried to apply for it, I would try. It's pretty clear, I think, in the application if you're not going to qualify. So why don't you try it, John? And if it's clear to you when you go through it that you're not going to apply, you're not going to be successful, then I can find out, you know, what other category you might fall in, or what else is available. And perhaps I will say it's always been helpful as the federal government programs were initially coming out in the first wave, and then, you know, some of our provincial programs, the feedback has been really valuable to go back and tweak the programs where there are maybe gaps that the group in the ministry developing the program don't realize there's a gap in. Because they're not on the ground, you know, they're not the person operating the business. They're relying on that feedback to come back. But I can say that the broad aim of these programs is to get money out the door. So it's not to try and create technical, you know, reasons why you're not going to qualify. So you'll see from the demo we just went through on the Ontario Small Business Support Grant, the new one that's up to $20,000 for small businesses that have been restricted or had to close because of the lockdown or us being in the red zone. You'll see there's like 3 different ways to evaluate whether you've had a 20% revenue loss. And that's because we recognize that some businesses maybe just opened this year. And so they can't compare, or if they did compare to, you know, April 2019, it would seem like they're doing a lot better because they weren't even open. So that would be an example of a technical thing that we've tried to adjust and account for and give a different way of evaluating. So I believe we saw in the demo that for those businesses, they're comparing February 2020 to April 2020. And so that's an example. I will say, if a business opened in January 2021, I believe that's the cutoff. They won't be able to apply. But if they opened in December, I think they're still eligible. So that's just in the briefing I got, what I remember to be the cutoff that way. But the goal is, you know, no matter what your circumstance, you should be able to take advantage of this and get the support you need. So John, if it's okay, do you have my email? Maybe I'll give it.
No, actually, no, I don't think I do.
Yeah, I'll give it to you to write down. So it's Lindsey, Lindsey, dot PARK, like going to the park,
Yep.
at PC dot OLA, which just stands for Ontario Legislative Assembly, .org. And so if you do me a favor, click through and try to apply for it, the PPE grant. And if it doesn't let you, tell me.
Okay, yeah, and it didn't let me.
It didn't let you. Okay, perfect. So I'll follow up with you, John. If you don't mind just sending me a quick note, kind of describing your business.
Yeah, certainly.
Because that'll help me to take back a practical example with as much description as possible and say, so what's someone in this situation supposed to do?
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much.
Thanks, John.
So Lindsey, maybe I'll jump in there quickly, because I think that, you know, one of the things that we're hearing, so even as you went through that, or that gentleman went through that presentation, I think, you know, as busy business people, when we get to that one question that kind of takes us down a thought process that we don't qualify, we sort of shut down there and go, well, it's not for me. They're not going to let me apply.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm a firm believer of just keep asking the question to how I can maybe maneuver through it, right?
Yeah.
And so we want to make sure that anybody on this call and any of your colleagues and neighbors know to either call Lindsey's office or our office, and we will help communicate with the province. Because I don't think it's really intuitive that if especially on that section where they're reading about having comparable revenues within a certain time frame. And so if you opened, you know, we have a couple of businesses that opened like a week before COVID shut down. And so they've just sort of comprehended that that's just not, they don't qualify for anything because, right? So.
Yeah, and so with that particular example, I think you want to encourage them to apply, right? And get and the idea is if you've been restricted, I think if they can ask that question to themselves, have I been restricted or had to shut down totally because of being in the red zone or because of the lockdown? We want them to apply. My understanding is on the other end, on the receiving end of these applications, they're not going out of their way to look for technical reasons to not give someone money. They're trying to flow the money to support businesses, you know, at a time that there's great need, and trying to remove the, you know, the technical barriers that might exist as you described, Sheila.
Yeah.
But I think it's taking those practical examples back also that will potentially not only help businesses in Clarington, but help businesses across the province. So I would like, you know, if I can kind of capture in this first week, like the program was announced Friday, if by like next Friday, I can have a bunch of examples to take back of where people aren't sure or they couldn't get through the form. This seemed to be a barrier for them. That would be super helpful.
Okay.
Because I can then kind of gather that up and in one phone call, take it back and ask them to look at it rather than me call, you know, 20 times this week. I'll take it all back in one go and just, you know, get all the clarifications.
Okay.
I'm just scrolling through the chat to see. Oh, are not-for-profits eligible? I believe, and I can go back now. What actually might be really helpful is if I just pull up the main page of the website while we're talking here. So just bear with me one moment. This should take only a minute. And Wendy, I believe the answer is yes. I just want to make sure, you know, you don't have to take my word for it and it's really clear to everyone looking at it. Okay, so I'm going to try and share my screen again here. Okay, is that showing up for people?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is where you'll end up when you type in ontario.ca/COVID support. And you'll click on this apply for funding button to get to kind of where we started on the video presentation. But if you scroll down here, you can see, so here's for the small business. So for sure, just this is the one thing to be aware of. What qualifies as a small business? I'm not sure it was highlighted in the presentation. Fewer than 100 employees. That's the cutoff. That's what's considered a small business. And the clarity here, see new businesses established since April 2019 are also eligible, which was back to your question there, Sheila. So it's not clear. It doesn't seem to be clear right on here. What does it say? I'm pretty sure it said nonprofits were eligible as you clicked through it, but we can click through it again here and it should be pretty clear. So I'm going to apply for funding. So this is what I was talking about. If you're applying for the property tax rebate or energy rebate or the Main Street Relief Grant, you would click off those as well, all at the same time. So has your business, so this is the question. So let's assume nonprofits included in business here. Now, if we say no, what does it say? It's nothing. So we'll say yes. Fewer than, and we've been restricted by the shutdown. I am, and I will say, I know a number of us have been advocating for a broader support package for nonprofits. I can't commit to you today that that is coming in the next few weeks, but there may be something coming for specifically for nonprofits. This is scrolling through here. What we want to do is go to this tab. It is really where all the info is. So here, if you see, they said an enterprise is corporation, an incorporated business, charity, or nonprofit. Yeah, so that's kind of interesting. My guess is if you click on this full guide here, let's test. This is what they said. If you had questions, you should click on this guide. And my guess is they have some frequently asked questions here. Eligible businesses. And what's the definition of enterprise? So that's in there. But I can I'll clarify on my end for you as well, Wendy, if that's helpful.
Perfect. Thank you. There's some background noise, Sheila.
Okay. I think. Yeah, I see some more questions popping up. Yeah, so Bonnie asked, is the support amount received between 10,000 or 20,000 related to the level of revenue loss? Yes, and so that's why they're asking that question of the difference. And so if it's
greater than 20% loss, you know, if you have a 40% loss, that means, you know, you've lost more than $20,000. That's how you get the full 20. Let's say you lost 30%, but for your business that was only $15,000. You would get the $15,000. So the minimum, if you've lost 20% though, is $10,000. You're going to at least get $10,000. The next one is this separate from, yes. So the CEBA, I think you're talking about that. I think you're referring, Megan, to the federal program. And so that's not being considered in this application. I guess you'd have to look at that program requirement and see if you're in a situation where you apply to two things and both can't be true, then I guess you could be in a situation where you're lying and your attestations, that's why it's asking at the bottom of the page if everything you've said is true. So I think you'd have to look. I'm not an expert because that's a federal program. I'm not an expert on what all the requirements are there. I can say this one, I think you want to be clear to people, this one is a grant, so you'll not have to pay it back. You'll just get to keep it. And it's also not really restrictive, like you can spend it on whatever you need to spend it on, which I know was something we heard. People, you know, everyone's been affected a bit differently, and it's, you know, why is it just, you know, for example, our PPE costs or our energy, you know, bills, like what if it's, you know, some other thing? And so there's not really any restrictions on this. What if your business didn't make $10,000 in that month? Marcia, maybe you can type again. I just want to understand your question a bit better. Do you mean that when you calculate it, it's not a $10,000 loss? I don't think the gross amount of the loss will matter for minimum qualification. Okay, so that's what Marcia is asking. So my understanding and how it's been presented to me is as long as you've had that 20% loss, you're going to get the minimum $10,000. So you can see where this is going to disproportionately help the smallest businesses. And that's kind of the goal of the program. You know, we hear every day about how Costco and Walmart are eating everyone's lunch. The point is Costco and Walmart won't get to apply for a program like this. This is actually meant for the smallest businesses. And should, yes, in some ways, disproportionately help the smallest businesses. And then is there a deadline to apply? That's a good question. I assume it says that right on the main page. If we click back to it here, I'm gonna, I assume this is going to be up at least until we're out of lockdown, if I can say that, to apply. But my guess is also that you'd be continue to be able to apply after that. Let's see if they're saying a deadline on here right now. I haven't heard a deadline highlighted. Yeah, I haven't heard of a deadline yet. And I think part of the reason for that is on the example of the PPE grant and the property tax rebates and energy rebates. We found people aren't applying. And so on this one, we're really hoping we get a good volume, but if it takes a bit longer for us to get our message out and make people aware of the program, I think we'll take that time. We just really want to make sure the people who deserve the support get the support.
Lindsey, can I just pop back to Megan's question about the CEBA, CEBA loan? Megan, I just want to say, like, we'll get back to you on that. We'll clarify that, because the SEBA loan is the one that's being administered through the banks as a loan, where a portion of it is forgivable. And just clarifying that this program is not a loan, it is a grant, right? And so, so let us qualify that for you, and we'll send an email back to everybody on the chat to get that answer clear.
Very good. Well, I don't see any more questions in the chat, Sheila.
Yeah, does anybody have any last thoughts? If not, again, thank you, everybody. Take advantage of today and the rest of the week to strengthen your business in whatever way you can. And remember that you've got lots of community partners that are standing beside you, like the Board of Trade, the municipality, Region of Durham, the province, and the federal government. You know, it's not always easy to get it right and simple right off the bat to help you. And I think I can speak for the other groups that I mentioned. If not, they should have been on the call to defend themselves. So with that, thank you. Have a great day, and we'll see you soon.
Thanks, everyone.